and welcome to the Fixing Football podcast. I'm your host Martin Naylor, and this week, once again, I'm joined by Liam O'Meara and Scott Naylor. This week, we got into the topic of Man United and Erik Ten Hag, and then a little bit on the Netflix for football idea, following on from the decision this past week about the renewal of the Sky package and Amazon dropping out of that. So we had a lot to go at. Also, we spoke a little bit about Bolton, a little bit about Chelsea, and we thankfully didn't touch on Arsenal, so you've all got that to look forward to. Thank you everyone who's been listening so far and subscribing. Really appreciate you all getting in touch over social media over the last couple of weeks. It's been really helpful and it's given us some good ideas of where we're going forward, so please continue to do that. If you'd like to get in touch, just click anywhere on the www.fixingfootballpodcast.com website, and if you want Twitter specifically, that is @fixingfootball. But before I chun on any further, let's just get straight into the episode. Good evening, Scott. How are you doing, mate?
Very well. Football's not improving my mood, but we'll get on to that later. But otherwise, all good. How are you?
I'm very well, thanks. Liam, welcome. How are you?
Nervous.
Nervous because, so we're recording this on Monday night, as most people know, and tonight we are pre-kick-off of Bolton v Portsmouth. It's at Portsmouth Ground. I forgot the name of it already. I just said it. I nearly said Portman Road, and that's why I stopped myself.
Nope.
Give us a bit of a preview. I want a quick prediction, and let us know your thoughts on this one, because this is the top of the table clash.
Well, preview seems a bit of a waste of time, because when everyone listens to it, the game will have happened. It will be in the past.
Give us your thoughts going in, then.
All right, my thoughts going in are, obviously, Portsmouth top, had a very good start to the season. Only lost recently. They got humbled 4-0 at home to Blackpool, and they've stuttered a little bit since then. Bolton, 8 wins out of the last 9 games, flying. It is the 2 current best teams on paper in the league playing against each other. Derby are on the move again, but it's not their day today. So, yeah, a win for Bolton today would be huge for promotion already, talking about it. It seems a bit early to say that, because even if we lose, you know, there'll be loads and loads of other games to make up for it. So we'd be all right. But I think it would send a big statement, and it could be very good for us with being on telly as well.
Yeah, like we've said before, you can go on a run dead easily in like the lower leagues, Championship, League One, and really change the course of the whole table. So it's probably too early to call it a 6-pointer. Is there anyone? I mean, is there anything going on that you think people need to know about in this match other than it is a top of the table clash?
I'd say from a Bolton perspective, it's a start for Jon Dadi Budvarsson, which I've been hoping would happen. I had a feeling that they would do that for this game. So watch this space, I would say.
Nice one. So we've had a packed old weekend of Premier League football. Arsenal lost, no one needs to know about that. But I think the big result of the weekend was at Old Trafford. And I think it's worth getting into a bit. Scott, how long has Erik Ten Hag got left in the job?
Oh, well, he's just got manager of the month, so he should have the rest of the season in theory, but which is baffling. But yeah, I think it was, from a personal perspective, very frustrating, considering we made United look like Barcelona about 3 days before, and then Bournemouth went and slapped them. So that was very frustrating. But it just goes to show that just the odd result here and there doesn't. Your eyes don't deceive you. You know, everyone was saying, "Oh, Man United are the form team in the Premier League," but when you watched it, you actually saw what was going on. That was not what you were seeing in front of you. So, yeah, I don't think he's going to have a few more performances like that. Can't see him having long. But then the question comes back as, then what do you do? Who do you get, and how do you fix it? Yeah, and I think that's maybe the only thing keeping him in a job is the lack of a clear successor, really.
Liam, we ran a poll on our Instagram. We had a lot of shouts. We actually had really good response on that. So if anyone isn't already following, please do follow us on Instagram at Fixing Football Podcast. Do you want some of the names who've come out?
I would love to hear some of the names that have come out, Martin.
Bill Neville was one, but that was
Bill Neville.
That was from a suspect member of this podcast, so we could probably.
What does it tell you? Does it tell you?
Yeah, it does tell me. It's not an anonymous shout, Liam. So there was Graham Potter was mentioned. Zinedine Zidane obviously came up, and then it gets banded around every time there's a big club losing a manager. Xabi Alonso, he's been the name banded around Twitter. Andre Pirlo got mentioned a few times on our subject. I don't know where that's come from. I don't know.
He's in Serie B. He's in Serie B with Palermo, I think.
And no, it's Sampdoria, and he's not doing
Sampdoria.
well
Sorry,
either.
tell a lie.
Although it did make me segue today because I was looking and there's quite a lot of strong sides in Serie B. I noticed.
Yeah, a lot of the classic sides have all been relegated after. Yeah,
Parma, Palermo, there was a load of them. But anyway, yeah, he's not doing. Although looked like he was on a good run of form for it the last 5 from what I could see. But I have no idea where that came from.
So aside from all them names, and we had a couple of the comments as well, was that especially from top listener Rick Atkinson, he mentioned that Erik Ten Hag stays, and that was the sort of results on our Twitter poll as well, is that most people were Ten Hag in at the moment. So where do they go, Liam? They've clearly got toxic dressing room, it seems. They've clearly got problems above with the Ineos stuff still not happening. Where do they go? What's happening?
I don't understand the poll result being so strong for Ten Hag in.
It was significantly strong.
Yeah, we were talking last night about the Chelsea situation, Scott, and I felt things were a bit premature there. But this is a very different thing. Like, Ten Hag is very far into the process. And from what I can see, there is no plan in terms of the way they play football. And we've talked about this before, but you have to look at what's going on at Tottenham for whether you think it's good or bad. There is an identity, there is a plan, there is a structure, and you can see the blueprint for what the next 2 or 3 years are going to look like there. You cannot see that at Man United. So I don't understand the support. In terms of some of the names that we've heard of, they're all the usual suspects, really. I'm not surprised to hear Xabi Alonso. He's very much the flavour of the month across all of Europe, really, with what he's done at Leverkusen. But there's a damn one I always find interesting for Man United, because the biggest challenge at Man United is almost being in charge of Man United. The fact that you're in charge of this huge organisation with huge personalities and huge opinions constantly put towards it. And he has the stature to deal with that. Now, whether he's actually any good as a manager, I feel like I don't know. And that's mental about someone who's won 3 European Cups as a manager. I can't tell you if he's any good or not. But I do think they need a change. I don't know what you guys think.
It's one of those things that like you said, I don't think it really helps until they fix what's going on above. I mean, the name I mentioned, and I actually thought of this name a couple of years back when they still had Pogba, and they've not long since got Pogba. I think it was after they sacked Mourinho. I may be getting the dates wrong, but I said Antonio Conte a few years ago, because if you want a manager who's, say what you want about Conte, he's a winning manager. He knows how to get stuff done, and he knows how to get tunes out of certain players. And if you want somebody who's just going to come in and make you hard to beat and get you back to some winning ways, Conte's the guy. But like we all kind of agreed last night, with the structure that is currently in place at Man United above him, he'd lose his mind. He'd blow his top after about 3 or 4 weeks and he'd be gone.
So his head would fall completely off, wouldn't it?
Oh God, yeah. He'd set Old Trafford on fire, which would probably do everyone a favour, to be fair. But I think that a serious manager is going to come in and see this structure above him and go, yeah, not for me. And I think that's the same problem we're going to have.
But wasn't that like what Ranić said? Is he come there as sort of a bit of a firefighter, and one of his, the most common, most memorable phrase from his tenure there was that United don't need a fix; they need open heart surgery.
Yeah, literally. And it turns out that everything that he wrote down and said is correct, and everything that he recommended to be done that they ignored still needs to be done, and everyone now agrees. And he got the short end of the stick of being seen as this guy. Oh, he was a bit of a fraud. He was this and that. But everything he said was absolutely bang on, and they're paying for it now for not listening to him.
Yeah, it's also worth remembering with Rangnick that he wasn't a manager for a decade before Man United decided to hire him as a manager. So the structural problems that he was seeing, but then they didn't want him to fix, seemed, like you say, Scott, seems to have all come true. So it just makes you think what would happen if they'd put that specialist technical director into a technical director position. Maybe they could be still there, doing well with even Solskjaer as manager still on an upward curve. I don't know, Martin. What do you reckon?
Are they just waiting for Radcliffe to come and sort it all out now? Is he just treading water until Radcliffe comes in and chucks a bunch of money at it, both in the back room and on the pitch?
That's what I'd do if I were the Glazers. If you know he's coming in and the yarn being spun to the press is he's going to look after the football side, why would you? I wouldn't waste the time getting involved. If I knew someone was going to swoop in a few months and take over, I wouldn't give myself the headache. So I wouldn't be surprised if that's what they're doing. Whether that's right or wrong, I don't know, but I don't think I would.
I don't know how. I honestly don't see anything from this Man United team that looks savable at the moment. They just look dead in the water. So they might pick up a couple of results here and there, but I'm really struggling to see any positives at the moment. I know Luke was Ten Hag out for a while, and I'm pretty sure he still is, but that doesn't seem to be the case. It's weird. At this moment, that Man United fans are Ten Hag in, and they see the problem as elsewhere.
Yeah, but I think this is typical Man United fans. I think you tend to see this most time. They almost think that they're above calling for a manager's head. You've seen this so many times before. They think they're above it.
I don't think that's the case. I think the louder voices towards the end of Van Gaal, towards the end of Mourinho, Moyes, that they were quite loud about that.
No, I don't think so. Not in comparison to what you get at other clubs. I think they wait it out. They seem to think that they're above that kind of thing. Particularly the match-going Man United fan that seems to put themselves on a pedestal. You would say that they're the all-knowing football fans of all football. Really, that you get these top-bred types that will talk about anything else other than actually what a problem is. So they'll start to talk about everything. Essentially, comes back down to the ownership and these type of things, but. There's a fundamental coaching problem on the pitch that's got fuck all to do with the Glazers. It's got fuck all to do with off the pitch. They are not being coached. Ten Hag abandoned his plan at Brentford in that game where essentially he realised he couldn't pass in the back with De Gea and Maguire there, and he has never gone back to it. And that should be a primary concern for Man United fans.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. At the moment, I can only see the solution quick term is to get rid of Ten Hag. I see a years and years long struggle ahead of them if they keep him. Now, whether that is the right decision long term, well, obviously no one knows. But for them to, put up a challenge to get in the Champions League spots and stuff, I see it as the only option, and they need that bounce and some sort of catalyst, and then let Radcliffe sort stuff out in January and get a director of football in place behind the scenes.
Well, my view is, although it's a tricky balance, and again, it's something that I think we're going to struggle with, is that I'm a big believer that a top elite manager will get players playing above their level and their station. So if you're Man United and you could somehow convince Conte, I'm not saying please don't hire Thomas Tuchel, Man United, please, it'll knock me sick, but a Tuchel, someone of that level who can get more from what they've got.
Tuchel was Luke's shout, by the way.
Yeah, it was Luke's shout, and it makes a lot of sense from Man United's perspective. From a personal perspective, it would be horrible to see, but you'd have to then convince said top manager to put up with the bollocks for a couple of years while they sort out their board from the board down and try and turn lemons into lemonade in the interim. And that's really the only way out, I think.
Yeah, well, let's move it on to Chelsea for a minute because you're a little bit in the same boat. I think Ten Hag's getting more stick because he's been there 18 months, but
yeah,
United and Chelsea are very close to each other in the table at the moment, and Chelsea more recently have spent a hell of a lot more. So is Poch everything he's cracked up to be? Should he be given more time?
It's sacking him, in my opinion, doesn't really change a great deal. Unless you could convince somebody truly exceptional to come in to get more, but even then, the state of the club is down to so many different factors. You've got a vision from the very top that is all nice on paper, but doesn't work in football. It works in other sports. It doesn't work in England in English football. It's the model of rebuilding a team, having them. Baseball teams, basketball teams tank a season and then sign young prospects and hope that they come through. it's nice on paper. It would be nice if that works, but with the pyramid system, and you can't come bottom and stay in the league over it. It doesn't work, and relegation is a death sentence for a club like Chelsea in the way we're structured. So you've got an ownership model with a vision that doesn't really fit English football. They then have put directors in place, but the people who are hiring them don't really know what they're looking for. So they've put people in place in director positions who have then hired a manager who, in my opinion, hasn't shown enough tactically that he's kept up with the 2023 game. We've hired him pretty much based on what he did with Spurs 6-7 years ago, whatever it was. And then in turn, so he's not coaching the players in properly, in my opinion. And in turn, you've got players who don't look like they give a shit. So I think every single element is wrong. And every single element shoulders some blame for where we are. But it has to come from the very top down, because that's where the problem all starts.
But do you have to grin and bear it, or do you think change needs to be made, like quicker, sooner rather than later?
To some degree, yes. We do need to grin and bear it in the long run. Like, we're not going to win a league in the next 3 years, nowhere near. Even if we had the right manager, but it depends what. Again, it comes down to what the board want. If they're not asked about missing out on top flight football, on Champions League in Europe, then no, they don't have to do anything. They just have to keep us out of the Championship. That's pretty much all they need to do. But the financial loss from not playing in Europe and the money they've spent and what they've committed to, I don't know if they can afford to do that. So, and we've seen with other clubs, Aston Villa being a prime example, if you do make a change quickly enough, you can save your season and you can string some results together and you can propel yourself back to where you're supposed to be. So in some ways, yes, because even if we keep the same squad, they're not going to be ready to be winning titles for a couple of years. But at the same time, do you stick with what clearly isn't working? There's no right answer, because I don't think firing Poch just immediately fixes all the problems. Also, he's not shown me a lot that convinces me he's the answer either.
I think you mentioned quite an interesting example there in Aston Villa. No, I do think that is slightly different, because I think they were miles off their actual true mean, because Gerrard was that poor a manager that essentially there was a lot of scope for Unai Emery to, a bit like when Tuchel first took over Chelsea, when he took over from Lampard. Always the debate between Gerrard and Lampard, isn't it? But who's the worst manager, right? So with Lampard, for someone like Tuchel to come in, it was very easy for him to get some quick wins all of a sudden. I don't think that's the case here with Poch in this team. I think he has a lot of transfers that I'm concerned won't pay off for you, even long term. I look at players like Mudryk and I think, God, there is something there, but is that going to work? I'm not convinced. But it's going to be very difficult for him to, I think, squeeze any kind of result out of this season. I do think Chelsea should stick with Pochettino, at least review things at the end of the season, because it's very hard for someone to come in, I think, and get more out of that team because of the lack of Premier League experience, really, which is mad to say over a team. But even like Caicedo, it's experience at Brighton, which is not the same as playing for Chelsea.
No, it's not.
I know, obviously, if any Brighton fans will be listening, I don't know why they would be, but if they were, they would balk at that and say, but it is different. I say that as a Bolton fan. When you make those step-ups to bigger clubs with bigger fan bases and higher expectations, it does make a difference. And there's not much experience of that across the team. So
no, there's not.
I think it's just a shit year for you, Scott, to be completely honest.
Yeah, I agree. And you touched on something really that I consider a really crucial point that people forgetting, and people sort of take the money we've spent and use that as a stick to beat us with, and rightly so, because we have spent a fuck ton of money. But it doesn't necessarily mean it's been spent either well or for things that are to provide instant results.
No, you've not gone out and bought like Damien Duff and Adrian Mutu, and you've not done. It's not that type of transfer that you've done, is it? You bought Nicholas Jackson, who I'd never heard of, and here's
the thing: for someone like Nicholas Jackson, we bought him for 30 million quid, which in the modern day isn't a lot of money. If we had an actual, I don't think Jackson is the striker to be the main. He's someone, if we had I don't know, I'm going to use Ivan Toney as an example because he's the name that's going around today. If we had a Toney and Jackson as backup, that's not a bad signing. It's not a bad, but he's playing the wrong role. And I think what we've got is a situation that we're hoping for something to happen that is actually quite exceptional, which is 19, 20, 21-year-old breaking into a top elite Premier League club and be good enough to play for them. That only happens every so often. And we're banking on that happening in every position for about 18 people all at once. And like you said, there's a very, very high probability that most of the people we bought ain't good enough and won't ever be good enough. And we'd be generally lucky based on what you see at other clubs and what history taught us for 3 or 4 of them to work out to be good enough for us. So it's very concerning. Very concerning.
Who's Ivan Toney going to be playing for later this year? Is it Chelsea or Arsenal?
I would put my money on Chelsea. I like Ivan Toney, but I don't see him as an Arsenal player. I just don't see him as someone we'd go for.
He's perfect. He's literally perfect.
Honestly, you're the worst for this. What's an Arsenal player then? What's an Arsenal player?
I don't know. I can't really put my finger on it. There's just something about him to me that a lot of Arsenal fans would love him. For me, he just doesn't
score loads of goals in the Premier League.
He just doesn't scream someone that Arteta would go for. I might be wrong. I might be miles off here. Maybe he's the perfect player that we need. I don't.
Is that from you don't think you'll be interested, or you personally don't think he's the right fit, or both?
Both. I personally don't think Arsenal will go for him, and personally as well, I think that if we're going to go out there and buy a striker, I think there's better options.
Such as.
Personally, I'd love Vlahovic.
He's not been off the injury booking table all season. We nearly ended up with him, and I'll be completely honest. When they offered, Lukaku and 30 mil, I'd have snapped their hand off, to be honest, because Lukaku weren't doing it for us. He was dead weight anyway. But he's not. Yeah, he would have just been injured all year, like everyone else who plays for us. So I think Ivan Toney's perfect for Arsenal. I think he's absolutely perfect. I think he'd smash loads of goals, and he'd do what.
Right. Look, I might be way off there, but I just don't see it.
I also think there's a good chance he ends up at Man United as well. Because unfortunately, it looks like the new Haaland isn't quite hitting the straps like they thought he might do. So I think there's a good chance they may double down and go and get Ivan Toney and actually have Højlund as the backup striker, which he probably is as well.
That's what he should be. He's only, is he 19 or 20? He's only quite young, isn't he? Is Højlund. So it would be weird for him to come to club the size of Man United from Atalanta and be on 10, 15 goals. It would be exceptional. So I think he's been put in an unfortunate position where they paid big money for him. He's now United's main striker, and he just ain't, I'm not saying he won't be, but he ain't there yet, and he won't be for a while. So yeah, they could probably do with an Ivan Toney, to be fair.
Because it looks, obviously, news today is Martial's not staying, is it?
Summer.
So they might try and shift him out on loan or as a free transfer, and it frees up a lot of wages, I would imagine that as well. And Ivan Toney's not beyond mega money, is it?
No, but I think there'll be a significant transfer fee for him, which might, especially someone like Man United with the FFP stuff that you mentioned, they might bulk at. But I think he'd be a good fit at Man United. I don't know. Listen, if Arsenal went and got him, I'm not going to turn my nose up at him and hate on him. I just don't think it's going to happen. And for me, there'd be different players.
I wouldn't be surprised if everyone except City looked at him, to be honest, Ivan Toney.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Ivan Toney is certainly going to be playing for someone in the new year, live on Sky. So speaking of Sky, Martin, I believe there's something else you wanted to run past us all today.
Funny you brought this up, Liam, because there was something I wanted to mention to you today. The big news last week was that the Sky TV deal was renewed, and we saw Amazon miss out and any other potential streamers. It was renewed for 6 years after the 2025 season when the current deal runs out. It actually went down year on year in terms of how you break it down. It was for more money overall, but it was for less money if you broke it up per season. But this prolonged the blackout of the 3 p.m. kickoff. Now, Liam, you're the most match-going fan among us, so I'd like your opinion first. What do you think of the 3 p.m. kickoff still staying as a blackout?
I think in theory, it's good for football, for 3 p.m. blackout to stay on. But I think in reality, with how most people consume their football, of those big clubs anyway, I think if they want to watch a game, they are watching a game. So who we keeping it there for? So it's a bit like, it reminds me of the prohibition law in America where essentially no one was drinking, but everyone was drinking in speakeasy bars, and it just kind of went on, and were just poisoning themselves with moonshine and stuff like that. So everyone's either got these boxes that I've never heard of, or other ways and means of watching 3 p.m. kickoffs if they want to do it via things like VPNs, for example, if you want to watch a Football League match. So,
which would be a good sponsor for the podcast, by the way, if there are any VPNs out there listening.
NordVPN.
No, or other VPNs as well are available.
There are other VPNs available. You are right.
Yeah.
It won't be if you sponsor us. That will be the only one. So, yeah, the truth is that I don't see who it helps. It almost excludes people that aren't as tech savvy from being able to follow their club in the same way as people that are tech savvy, which is weird, but almost the law is making it harder for honest people, if you get me.
Yeah, listen, we all know someone who's got a dodgy Fire Stick or something like that where you can get matches from. So I don't understand why I think the phrase Netflix for football has been bandied around for a few years, and I really like the Amazon Week when they take over the Premier League fixtures and you can flick between the two. I don't know why that can't be a thing. So, Scott, why do you think that style of broadcast is being safeguarded so much? Is it to protect attendances? Surely not.
No. Sky don't care about that. So, and the Premier League, the Premier League care. Sky don't care. It's an interesting one because they've tied into, it's the 28-29 season, isn't it? I think so. It's a long time. It's another 5 years, and so that sort of tells you that there's no immediate plans for the Premier League to, launch their own, like you said, the Netflix of football, Premier League on demand or whatever. And I agree. I like it when, well, the other night it was terrible use of my time, but I got to see the United Chelsea game, which I wouldn't normally have got to see on TV without Prime because they're showing everybody. And it is nice having that option to flick through. Why they're safeguarding it, I'm not sure, because actually the Premier League have not got the best deal out of this, like you alluded to. They're actually making less per year than they are on the current deal. So the Premier League, I think Simon Jordan said it best, the real winner is Sky. They're the ones who are getting the best deal here. So I don't know. Maybe someone's got pictures of someone that they don't want to get out. That's same way Jordan Henderson keeps getting in the England team. He's got pictures of Southgate doing something. But yeah, I don't. It baffles me because the Premier League seems to be leaving money on the table, not going for a streaming model. Seemingly, I don't know the ins of that.
My thoughts is that they are biding the time, kicking Amazon out and not letting them take. So in that next sort of section of the deal, there is no deal with Amazon or DAZN, or another big one who are in the market for it. I believe that the Premier League will be setting up their own streaming service to rival them, and you would subscribe to them instead, which would make their product and then whatever they can sell to Sky and TNT or whatever TNT is at that time, because it seems to change every couple of years. That's where I think it's going. Do you not think that's, Liam, is that not the way to go? Where literally everything is accessible, because it already is anyway, if you know the right internet site.
It's definitely better for fans rather than paying for essentially two different services and not necessarily being able to see all the games, which is the challenge of it. What I do is I query, though, the idea of Netflix on football, whether the Premier League gets more money out of that, with it being only, because they're selling it as 5 packages at the moment, aren't they? It's just Sky are managing to get 4 of them with the money they're putting up. So I think the door was open for others, and I think if people put the money on the table, it'd be there. And I don't think the Premier League's certainly not stupid, in terms of revenue. I think if the cost analysis of the Netflix of football idea was there, that the Premier League could make more money in its UK, and we're only talking about its UK market here, by the way.
Yeah, because the worldwide is ridiculous.
Exactly. So we're only talking about the UK market, and we all assume that would be better. And for the fans, it definitely would be. But I wonder whether the financials match the sheer might of what Sky can offer. Because this is everything to Sky. Sky's whole business model is built on the Premier League, always has been, really.
Yeah.
So they will throw money at it. completely. So I would be very surprised if the actual numbers meant that Sky wasn't the biggest bidder no matter what. Like, and whether the deal's gone up and down is irrelevant because Sky would be the biggest bidder.
Yeah, true.
At the moment, a package to watch our selection of Premier League matches is like, if you want Sky Sports and TNT, you're looking at almost £100 on top of whatever else you pay for your internet and anything else like that.
Yeah.
Surely when everything's tied up together with, like someone like Apple would come in, and Apple TV, I think, have been another one that's been banded around as interested in the Premier League, like the way they do with the MLS. If you subscribe to a certain app on Apple TV, you get the MLS package, which is the same, where it is their Netflix of football. You can flick through every match. There's a main event, and then there's side ones.
Don't DAZN have that in some countries? Isn't that their Isn't that their offering in some countries? I think Australia.
Yes.
The Premier League there.
So, but then, it doesn't take a genius to work out. If you find the right website, you can watch these matches broadcast on Al Jazeera or Supersport or Opus Sport or whatever other broadcast channels these are all sent to, and via Sky. Surely there is a lot more demand for watching every match than there is for going to every match. And I'm trying to balance this out between the match going fan, which is the reason for the 3 p.m. blackout originally. Now, whether that still is the case now, or changing the whole model up to suit everybody.
Yeah, I don't actually fully subscribe to the idea that the 3 p.m. blackout affects attendances. Our attendances haven't been as high as they are now for quite some time, and if you really wanted to, you could see every Bolton game now. If you really wanted to, you could find the means to watch any Bolton game you wanted in your house. And our attendances have not been any higher. Attendances are linked with winning football matches in the Football League. If your team's doing well and it makes you happy, you will go and watch that team. And that kind of trumps all. So I'm not a big believer in it. I think it's part of the Sky package. And
do Bolton still have the iFollow?
It's Wanderers TV now. They've got their own one. They've moved away from the iFollow service. Because the iFollow service is the EFL's version.
Yeah.
Teams could subscribe to. Bolton have now set up Wanderers TV. So internationally, for games, or for evening games, anything not 3 p.m, you can pay £10 to watch that game online. Or part of Wanderers TV with their own production team.
So part of the Sky Sports deal and why things like MUTV have seen such a decline in subscribers, and Arsenal had their own at one point, and others, Chelsea TV, you could see them on the on the Sky Planner and stuff. That you could, if you was a subscriber at one point, you could watch the matches through MUTV or through Arsenal TV on Sky. But now they're all gone and they don't have the broadcast rights anymore. Surely that could be a route where each team has their own. Like, you would subscribe to a team rather than you subscribe to, say, Amazon, and you get every match every day, however you want to break it up. And you could just subscribe to a team and pay the fee of a season ticket. I mean, I'd be more willing to pay the fee of a season ticket and not have to travel to London every week to watch Arsenal and watch them from the comfort of my own home.
In the EFL, that is what's happening internationally.
Why is that the case? That the EFL have that?
Because that's just the EFL. The EFL don't have a different agreement with Sky. Theirs is not as... It is different from next year, so that there are more games being shown from next season. Higher percentage of it, but it's a different package, man. Different. So the Premier League's very, very protective over its product.
Yeah.
So things like the FA Cup and the EFL Cup, the international sort of streaming on that, it's hard to get hold of, even for us now, because you won't necessarily.
Yeah.
The Premier League haven't agreed to it, but yeah, it's just the nature of their deal. So internationally, you could buy a season ticket, I'll put that in inverted commas, to watch Bolton if you were based in America, and you could watch every single game of that team all season for, I don't know, I can't remember how much it is on the top of my head, but I believe it's late. I think it's about 180 to 200 quid, something like that. And you can, as a one-off payment, and you've got access all season to Bolton's games.
I hate that we live in a time at the moment where you just can't watch every football match out there in the Premier League at the moment. It seems like they're clinging on to the last straws of their main cash cow, if you will.
Yeah, at the same time though, and this is what the whole it creates the financial element to it. There's a reason the Premier League's so good. Yes, obviously English football is generally better, but we do predominantly have the best players in the country because we can pay the most money.
Because of the TV deal.
Because of the TV deals. Not just here, but also internationally as well. So, unfortunately, that's just the way it is.
Yeah. It's no light without dark, as they say. So if you don't like that, but then if you do switch to a different model, the streaming model, like you said, if that actual income is so much lower, does then the quality of the league suffer? Is that a price that we want to pay?
Exactly. So then, one of the good things, I'm putting things about the current deal is that it's equally split amongst all the Premier League teams, isn't it?
Yeah.
That won't happen in what you're suggesting, unless you did it through the Premier League only. If
the Premier League had their own streaming service that they sent up worldwide, so they took everything back and it was one worldwide streaming service, surely that is...
Are your Arsenals, Liverpools, Man Uniteds, Man Cities, other bigger teams going to be happy with essentially a streaming service like that where, let's be honest, 90% of the people are going to be tuning in to watch them? Are they going to be happy with Fulham getting an even split if we're going to be repackaging the whole thing? Or is this kind of thing maybe what's holding it back? Because I do remember Liverpool director, I can't remember who it was off the top of my head now. Might have been Rick Parry.
Yeah.
Maybe Rick Parry, who discussed this, that he felt the current TV package was unfair to Liverpool because essentially, and he mentioned Bolton by name at that point, no one's watching your Boltons, is what he said. So why should it be split equally? I think if you start looking at the infrastructure of it, I think this is where this becomes really problematic. And we start
where the Super League stemmed from, isn't it?
100%, Scott. Yeah, I was going to say that. Yeah. So
you make a point.
It's Pandora's box, really, when you start looking into it in too much detail.
So we can't fix this.
I prescribe to the logic that these guys are like Liam said before. The guys who run the Premier League know a thing or two about getting revenue. I feel like if the streaming model was the way, it would have happened by now. Because it's not like the streaming model's a new thing anymore. There must be a reason why they're staying in bed with Sky. And maybe it is to not
set up an infrastructure like a Netflix, though, where you are streaming broadcast. That takes some significant setting up, and that's got to be right.
They'd piss all that. They'd piss the Premier League. They'd been brilliant.
Yeah.
There's a lot of poor organisations in English football, and we've talked about this in other previous podcasts, but in terms of actually managing their product, the Premier League is shit hot.
Yeah.
That's why it's such a big brand now. They're very, very good at it.
But I think this leads us nicely to talk about the Super League next week.
We can do a Super League special right before our Christmas special, which is coming up.
Oh, God.
So we've got one more. Then we've got a Christmas special, Liam. I demand you wear Christmas attire. You have a Christmas drink, and we do a Christmas quiz that everyone's going to be able to play along with. Are you ready for this?
I'm not ready yet, but I've thought of my questions. I've not researched them yet, but I know the theme of my questions.
Right, well, I've got mine set up. And then, so we'll do that. We'll set that up, and I'm not sure when that's going to go out yet, whether we put it out on Christmas Eve or Boxing Day or Christmas Day. Because Christmas Day falls on a Monday, and that's when we're usually called, so we're not doing it then.
That is very true. Let's not mess with the schedule.
You could put it in on Christmas Eve while everyone's waiting for the big man to turn up. They can listen to a nice Christmas quiz.
Yeah, what else is anyone doing on Christmas Eve? Exactly. Plus, then they've got Boxing Day matches. People are going to need stuff to listen to. You're right.
Well, there's a football game on Christmas Eve this year, actually.
Oh, yeah, there is.
Chelsea Wolves. I was trying to get a ticket, but it's
yeah.
My concern is getting home in time. Is the biggest problem. I'm not convinced I'll get back.
That's a game everyone's moaning about, saying it's wrong, but I bet everyone watches it.
Everyone will watch it. It's a shitter for the away fans. For the Chelsea fans going up to Wolverhampton on Christmas Eve,
Is it though? Like, I was thinking about this. Like, it's just another day, really, isn't it?
No, the roads will be dead. Roads are dead on Christmas Eve. It's brilliant. The trains might be a problem.
That's what I mean. The public transport I can see it now. All Chelsea fans stranded in Wolverhampton because some dickhead couldn't be asked turning up for work on Christmas Eve. You can see that happening.
Well, if anyone is listening and would like to take Scott along to the Chelsea match at Wolverhampton, please get in touch. That would be lovely. Liam, who've Bolton got Boxing Day?
No idea. What do you want me to say? I don't know. We've got loads of games.
Find out.
We've got Lincoln away, Martin. That's who we've got.
Did you ever go to the away one on Boxing Day?
I have done. Usually it's more local than that, but probably not now as an adult with, like things to do and stuff. But
life.
When I was younger, yeah, I've been to a few of them.
I'm a bit gutted, Arsenal on Boxing Day. We play on the 23rd against Liverpool, and then the 27th or 8th against West Ham. It's like one of the ones that's it's been kicked out of the regular schedule just for TV purposes. So we play a couple of days later than everyone else. But I like Boxing Day matches. Helps get you through the days of Christmas. Right, so we've got a Christmas quiz coming up. Everyone get festive. We're going to make it so everyone can play along. We are going to stop the recording now because Bolton are about to kick off. By the time you're listening to this, we're all going to be celebrating 3 points to the Wanderers.
Yeah.
And boys, I will catch you all next week. Before we go, Liam, where can people find all our links to social media?
fixingfootballpodcast.com.
And Scott, just wrap it up if they want us on Twitter specifically because it's a little bit different.
At Fixing Football.
That easy, people. Thank you very much, everyone. Please continue to like and subscribe and share. Thank you for getting in touch, those who have, and thanks for getting involved in the Twitter polls and Instagram. We really appreciate that. So thank you, and we will catch you all soon. See you guys.
Hey, boys. See you in a bit.